Hello and welcome everyone. It's Shanna. I'm so glad you're here today. Now today we're going to be creating these super cute cards and we are going to be using Kendra's Card Challenge November 2025 bonus printable to create these. It's called a Flurry of Friends digital card making kit and it's from Kendra's and I'm just showing you. And you've got several pattern printable papers that you can print out. I've printed out two, and you've also got several little creatures that you can cut out. And you can fussy cut those, or you can use dies. And this is the cover sheet. It shows you all of the things. And you also have a sheet of sentiments, which I think I forgot to show you, but you'll see later. I'm going to use sketches 11 and 14 from Kendra's Card Challenge number 20, and we're going to create two cards using these two panels that I printed out. Now you can print out the entire bonus printable if you want. I just chose to print out a couple of the pattern papers that were in there, and then I did cut out all of the cute little critters that were included in there. I just did the two just to save on ink, and I'm really tweaking my settings on my printer. It is a new printer and I'm still trying to get to know it. So I just printed out the two. Now what I'm doing is I'm preparing my my layer for my card base. I used the sketch to determine what size it needed to be and I just cut it down. So I'm going to bring in this embossing folder. It's called Holiday Flurry and it actually matches the pattern paper pretty well. I think the snowflake that is in the embossing folder resembles the pattern pretty closely. And so I'm getting my head in there so I can get it lined up nice and straight so I have a nice straight pattern on there. And this is where I'm showing you it really kind of matches the pattern on the pattern paper. Now I'm going to get my Spellbinder 6 in here and I'm going to get my proper sandwich for this regular embossing folder. And while I've got this out, I'm actually going to go ahead and grab the panel for the next sketch because I want to emboss it as well. And I thought rather than dragging the Platinum 6 in and out of the screen, I would just get them both embossed at the same time and be a little efficient here. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to run it through and then we'll get the machine out of the way and we'll be done with it for the most part. And I've got both of my panels embossed and ready to go. Now I'm using Spellbinder's cardstock with this, and I just thought the colors of it really matched the pattern paper very well, and so that's what I've chosen to do. Now on this one, I'm going to let the card base be one of the layers that is shown on the sketch because I want some white. I'm going to layer my pattern paper according to the sketch with some white cardstock behind my pattern paper, and so I thought I'd just let the card base be one of the layers and it would match my white that I'm using here. Because I'm using hammer mill, I use that for my card bases, and I've got a hammer mill panel that I have cut down for these strips here. And so we're just going to get our pattern paper laid down on their layers and then we'll be ready to start assembling. And you can see I've taken a little bear and I just used one of my nested oval dies and I die cut it out. I just went through, I keep a bin on my, near my die cutting machine that has all of my commonly used nesting dies. And I have several of them. And so I just kind of flipped through them and looked for something that I could kind of fit around each of the little critters and be able to die cut them out, not mess up any of the critters that are beside them so that I can, reserve them for other things and yet get a good die cut out. Now I've got some wild hair this morning. It keeps showing up in the camera, so I apologize for that, but whenever I lean forward. Anyway, so I'm going to get this next layer laid down on here. And we've just got, a decorative border going down the side and then across the bottom. And it looks really pretty. And I think it looks nice with that embossed panel. So we're going to, our critter's going to go there, but the sketch actually shows a button right there. And so what I thought I would do is I'm going to take that cover sheet and she's got little images of everything on that. And I'm going to cut this apart so that I can get at one of those snowflakes. And I'm going to create a button with one of those snowflakes. So I'm just cutting I was cutting some of the things away, trying to decide if I wanted to cut more, but I thought I've got enough cut away. I can just get a circle die, lay it on there, and we'll create our own button with this little image here. So I'm going to bring in my Empress plates. It's got a magnet on there, and that way I can just center my magnet around there. It did move, so I'm going to line it up, and I'm just going to die cut it out very quickly. And now we've got a button for our image, and it'll follow the sketch very nicely, and it actually matches very well with the little snowflake that is on the bear's cup. So I'm going to bring in some of my silver thread, and this is from Spellbinders, and I'm going to poke a hole in this and create a button. Now I started to just freehand it, and then I thought I'll just bring in this little wax seal mat that I have here, and I'm using my pokey tool and just poking a hole one across from the other, and I'm just creating a button out of this. And then we're going to thread it up with this silver thread, and it will take me a minute to get it done. So I took like 38 seconds out of me fiddling with it and getting it threaded through there. And now we'll just tie a nice little bow in it, and we will have created our little button with our little bow on it, and it'll match the sketch very closely. So we'll just get it tied up. I'm glad I took 38 seconds out because it's taken enough time here just to try and get this bow tied. So there we go. We'll just tighten that up nice and neat, and we'll trim off some of those edges, and then we'll get it laid down and positioned according to our sketch. So I'm just going to snip off those edges, and then we'll grab our glue and we'll get it laid down on there. And there you go. I think it's a super fun winter card. Now we're going to get our little bear, and I was thinking a tag or something, and I thought, I went to my stash and I found some lighter teal ribbon, and I thought, well, let's just put a bow on there. And it does pull in a little bit of a lighter color, but it was the closest that I had for this, and I think it works out all right. So I'm just getting my bow tightened as small and as tight as I can get it with my fingers, and then we'll trim it down, and we're going to use that for our card, and I think it'll work out all right. And I don't know how many times it takes me to cut this tail to get a decent tail. I'll just keep cutting and cutting until I get it to where it looks halfway decent. And we'll get all of these little bits and pieces out of our way as well. So I think it looks super sweet. I think you could easily punch a hole in there and, run some ribbon through it and create a tag. But I thought, well, we'll just keep it simple and just lay our bow on there, and it'll look kind of like a tag. I did try some of my tag dies on these images just to see if I wanted to actually use a tag die. And the particular tag die that I was looking at was a little bit smaller, so that's why I opted not to use it. But you can just use anything. You can fussy cut these if you want. I wasn't in the fussy cutting mood, so I just brought in the dies and just die cut it out. Now I'm going to bring in some double-sided tape and get it laid down on the top of that panel, and we'll add some glue too, but I'm just trying to get some good adherence so that bow will stay on there. And I'm going to bring in my tweezers and pull off the backing sheet on that. I can't get a hold of it with my fingernails. And then a little dab of glue, and we'll get that bow laid down on there, and we're ready to lay this panel down on our card base. So we've got plenty of glue on there. I'm using that wider nozzle just so that I can move them around and line them up and get them laid on my card base a little bit more even, and it is working much better for me. So that's why I'm using the bigger nozzle. Now I've got some enamel dots from the Not Too Shabby shop, and they seem to match, and so I'm going to lay 3 of those down around my little bear and just add a little bit of sparkle and fun to the card with that. And then that will finish off sketch 11. And I think it's really pretty. I like the color scheme, and it's so fun to have these bonus printables to create some cards. Some of these craft materials, well, most all of the craft materials that we use are very expensive. And so this is a really nice benefit that Kendra has for her members. And so I'd encourage you to check out her membership and check out the levels so that you can get these bonus printables, because she does them every month. And there is a color challenge as well. And it just can be a very cost-effective way to have something new to work with each month and to support the Kendra's Card Challenge, which is a load of fun. So I had embossed this panel when I did the other one, and then I needed to cut it down because I had not yet cut it down to the size that I needed, so I'm going to cut it down. And before I lay this down, I want to get all these strips laid on here because I'm going to have to flip it over and cut off the excess. And so that's why I'm doing that now. Now, I got lucky here. That embossing folder that I have actually has diagonal lines that matched up very closely to the sketch. And so I was able to use those diagonal lines to line these strips up and to get them evenly spaced. Now I've got glue on the back of that, and I'm going to get it cleaned up, and then we're going to use a little mat to kind of keep the glass mat clean. And I should have kept it in on there the whole time because I wind up making another gluey mess, but that's just kind of how crafting goes. So I'm going to take this other one, and I'm going to use that next diagonal line, and I'm just seeing, are they all going to line up nicely? And they did. And I was like, well, that's a bonus. So just going to follow that diagonal line on that embossed panel, and it'll help me space and kind of keep them even. And that was just a happy little accident there. Now we have our 3 strips of pattern paper. Now you'll notice on these particular sketches, I chose them because I had only printed out 2 pieces of the pattern paper. So I only had 2, how they're labeled paper A, B, C, D, E, and F. I only had 2. And so I chose the sketches, and I basically picked the sketches that was only calling for 1 type of the pattern paper. And I could have done any that called for 2 because I have 2 different colors there, but I didn't choose to do that. I just chose to pick the ones that just were using a single pattern on them. Now here's where I needed that mat again on my glass mat board because I've put glue all the way around this, and there I'm laying it down on there, and of course glue is going to get on my glass board from the back of this card. But I'm loving using that large nozzle for the glue because it just helps me to move them around so much. Because I was really struggling with getting them lined up on my card bases evenly, and then if you don't have enough glue to move it around, you're pretty much stuck. Anyway, so this one's going to cover the whole card base, so it shouldn't be too hard to get it lined up. And we've got some deep, dark cards going on here with this. I think this is indigo. I'm not sure. Anyway, we're going to lay this little mouse down here, and I think he's super cute. And I've got him layered up with, the oval that I die cut out of the base of the base panel of this. And I thought about popping him up, but I'm like, no, I'm just going to lay him flat down on there. And I think it looks super cute. Now I'm going to bring in, I'm looking at the sentiments. You could cut some of these little bitty sentiments off of here and add them. And I was contemplating that. And then I decided that I would go and get the sheet of the full sentiments that Kendra offered with this bonus printable. And I'm looking at them, and I'm going to cut it apart. It was too wide for my little guillotine that I wanted to use on camera here, so I went and cut it in half. And now I'm going to cut down. I've chosen the sentiments that I want to use. They're toward the bottom. There's 2 of them that I want to use. And I'm just going to cut the sentiments away until I get to the ones that I want. And then we'll cut them down to size so that we can use them on our cards. And then I'll just save the other ones for later. So I think I had to cut 4 of them away. I'm going to use the warm wishes and warm winter wishes and the happy holidays, I believe is what I chose for these. And so we'll just trim them down. And I'm just very carefully trying to line them up on my guillotine to where I can get kind of an even border all the way around. And I'm using the line on my guillotine there to make sure I'm straight. And so we got one of them. I kept those embossed panels, those 2 blue strips that are laying there, thinking that I would put them on the inside of the card. I wind up using one of them to back our sentiment for the mouse card. And then we won't need to back the sentiment for the bear card because it's going to lay on our pattern paper. So we'll just get these all trimmed down and we'll be ready to go. So you basically have got a printable card kit with, you know, these bonus printables, because you've got your paper, you've got your images, and then you've got your sentiments. The only thing you don't have are your card bases and, you know, your glue and stuff, your layers. So bring those in and grab your Kendra's Card Challenge sketches, and boom, you're off and running, you know, with the ability to create some fantastic cards. This printable is so super cute. And you guys haven't even seen, you know, I barely scraped the edge of it with just the 2 pattern papers and the images that I printed. There's a lot more that you can print. I was just saving on ink and printing the ones that I knew I wanted to work with. And you can certainly do that. So I am going to get this laid down on here. And we're going to bring in some of those enamel dots for our card. And I'm trying to decide where I want to put it. I'm going to put one big one up here by our sentiment. And then we'll put a couple more. We'll just kind of create a little triangle with it and get them laid down on there. Super cute. Now for our other one, we're just going to lay it down there on our pattern paper, so we won't need to layer it up, and I think they look super cute. So I encourage you to check out Kendra's Card Challenge, and if you are a member, grab that bonus printable and get to working with it, because it is super fun. I really enjoyed working with it. So I hope you enjoy it. I've got some pictures of my cards here so that you can take a look at them and see them a little bit more up close, and I think they're super cute. I want to thank you for stopping by my channel and watching the video, and if you haven't, give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, I would love to welcome you to my community where I provide daily content. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.